Presence is the first language of intimacy, and it is often the one most overlooked. Too many men rush to performance, to technique, to physical gestures, as if intimacy begins with touch. But it doesn't. It begins with the quality of your presence. When you walk into a room with her, does she feel you are truly there? Not just physically seated beside her, but mentally, emotionally, and energetically centered. That, more than anything else, is what she remembers. A woman feels presence before she feels your hand. Presence means you are not distracted, not split between your phone and your thoughts, not already rehearsing what you will say next. It means you are grounded in this moment, fully attentive to her existence. That stillness communicates far more powerfully than words or gestures. In psychology, we know that humans are wired to sense authenticity. She can feel when you are restless, and she can feel when you are anchored. Anchored presence signals safety, strength, and a kind of quiet confidence that leaves an imprint. Think about it. Even a glance across the table can be magnetic if you are truly there in it. Presence creates a field around you, one in which she can relax, open, and trust. Without it, no amount of charm or cleverness will hold her. With it, even silence becomes charged, and this is not about pretending or performing mindfulness. It's about training yourself to value the present moment so deeply that she feels prioritized without you needing to say a single word. There is also a philosophical weight to presence. When you are fully there with her, you are essentially declaring, "This moment matters, and you matter." That is rare in a world drowning in distraction, where people skim the surface of connection, but rarely dive into its depth. The man who offers presence is the man who sets himself apart, not through grand gestures, but through an inner calm that says, "I see you, I'm with you, and I am not going anywhere in this moment." Before you even think about touching her, master the art of presence, because touch without presence is hollow, but presence without touch already feels intimate. And if you can give her that, she'll never forget you. Emotional calibration is the second step, and it is what separates a fleeting connection from a lasting impression. Every woman pays attention to energy before she ever considers your touch. Energy is the unspoken language of interaction, and she is fluent in it. She notices whether you are moving too fast, speaking too loudly, or projecting your own agenda onto her. She notices if you are sensitive to her pauses, her tone, her subtle shifts in mood. This is calibration, the ability to tune yourself to the emotional rhythm of another person. And without it, presence remains incomplete. Think of it like music. You don't barge into a song with a clashing instrument. You listen first, you find the key, and then you join in harmony. Women feel when a man knows how to do this. They feel the difference between someone who imposes his energy and someone who flows with theirs. This is not submission, and it is not passivity. It is intelligence. It is understanding that intimacy is a dance, not a conquest, and the ones who lead best are the ones who listen most. Psychologically, calibration shows up as empathy, but it runs deeper than just understanding emotions. It's about being responsive without being reactive. If she's playful, you meet her playfulness. If she's contemplative, you soften your tone. If she's quiet, you don't rush to fill the silence. You let the silence breathe. This is how you communicate respect without having to state it. She doesn't just feel heard, she feels felt. Philosophically, calibration is a discipline of attention. It's the art of removing yourself from the center and honoring the reality of another person. When you do this, she experiences a rare form of validation, one that tells her she is not being rushed, forced, or dismissed. That validation creates trust, and trust is the soil in which desire grows. So before you reach for her hand, ask yourself, have I tuned into her? Have I met her where she is, not where I want her to be? When you calibrate with precision, your touch won't just be accepted, it will be invited. And that is what she will never forget. Eye contact is the most underestimated form of touch. Long before your hands ever meet, your eyes have already spoken. They reveal intention, they create tension, and they set the tone for everything that follows. When a man knows how to hold a woman's gaze not with force, not with hunger, but with depth, he invites her into a silent conversation that feels far more intimate than words. What makes eye contact so powerful is that it cannot be faked for long. A glance carries presence, calibration, and authenticity all at once. If your mind drifts, she feels it. If your confidence wavers, it shows. But when your gaze is steady, grounded, and patient, she senses not only that you see her, but that you are willing to be seen yourself. That mutual recognition is magnetic. It's not just about looking at her, it's about letting her feel that, in that moment, she is the only person in your world. Psychologically, the eyes bypass the layers of performance. They go straight to the nervous system, triggering either safety or anxiety. If your gaze is rushed or invasive, she will instinctively recoil. But if your eyes hold warmth and steadiness, she feels safe, even drawn in, because something deeper than words has been communicated. You are not hiding, and you are not demanding. You are simply there, offering presence without pressure. Philosophically, the eyes carry an even greater weight. They remind us that intimacy is not just physical, but existential. To look deeply into another person's eyes is to acknowledge their humanity, their individuality, and their inner world. It says, "I see you, and I am willing to meet you where you are." That level of recognition is rare in a culture obsessed with distraction and superficiality. And it is precisely because it is rare that it becomes unforgettable. So before you rush to touch her, ask yourself if you've truly looked at her, long enough for her to feel seen, but soft enough for her to feel safe. A single moment of genuine eye contact can create more chemistry than hours of careless touch. Master that, and you won't need to chase her attention. She will already be leaning closer because you've spoken to her in the only language she cannot ignore. Long before your hands ever touch her skin, you are already communicating something powerful through everything that does not require words. The tone of your voice, the way you pause between sentences, even the rhythm of your breathing, these subtle cues create an atmosphere that can either draw her closer or push her away. Most men underestimate this, assuming that intimacy begins with what they do rather than how they are. But women feel these nuances immediately, because they signal not just what you want, but who you are in that moment. Think about the silence between two people. It can be awkward, or it can be electric. The difference lies in how you inhabit that silence. If you fidget, rush to fill the space, or let anxiety leak through your body language, she feels your insecurity. But if you rest in the pause, breathe calmly, and allow silence to hold its own weight, that very stillness becomes a form of connection. It tells her you are not desperate to perform, you are willing to let the moment breathe. Psychologically, these nonverbal forms of communication are often more trustworthy than words. Anyone can say the right thing, but your body, your tone, your pacing, they reveal what is actually true about you. A steady voice signals composure. A relaxed posture communicates confidence without arrogance. Even the smallest gestures, like how slowly you move your hands or how intentionally you lean closer, can transform the atmosphere. She remembers not the details of what you said, but the way you made her feel in the spaces between words. Philosophically, this reminds us that intimacy is not built only in action, but in presence and restraint. When you learn to communicate desire, respect, and curiosity without relying on physical touch, you cultivate a deeper magnetism. You are saying, in essence, I don't need to rush, I don't need to prove, I am simply here, and I am letting this moment speak for itself. That kind of quiet power lingers far longer than any rehearsed line or forced move. So before you touch her, ask yourself if you've already spoken through your silence, your tone, your presence. Because when words and gestures align in authenticity, touch is no longer the beginning. It is simply the natural continuation of something already unforgettable. Nothing makes touch unforgettable unless it is rooted in psychological safety. This is the hidden foundation that many men overlook. Without it, presence feels shallow, calibration feels manipulative, and even eye contact risks becoming invasive. Safety is not about eliminating tension. It's about creating an atmosphere where tension feels exciting rather than threatening. A woman remembers the man who gave her space to unfold at her own pace, not the one who rushed her into his rhythm. Safety does not mean timidity, it means stability. It is the way you hold yourself when she tests your patience, when she hesitates, when she pulls back slightly to measure your intentions. If you grow restless or push harder, she reads it as danger. If you remain calm, steady, and non-demanding, she reads it as strength. And that strength allows her to relax into herself, which is the very thing that makes intimacy possible. Psychologically, trust is the prerequisite for desire. The nervous system cannot open in the presence of threat. And women, more than men, are acutely attuned to subtle signals of safety or risk. Your words, your body language, your timing, every detail either tells her she is free to express herself, or it tells her she must guard herself. When she feels free, her energy flows naturally toward you, not because you pushed for it, but because you created the conditions where her guard could drop. Philosophically, safety is an act of respect. It is the recognition that intimacy is not something you take. It is something that is given and therefore must be earned. The man who rushes to conquer is forgotten. The man who waits with patience, who allows trust to deepen, becomes unforgettable, because she associates him not with fear or doubt, but with freedom. And freedom is what makes desire sustainable. So before you touch her, ask yourself if you've built the kind of trust that makes her feel safe to open. Because in the end, what she remembers is not the touch itself, but the man behind it, the man who respected her pace, honored her freedom, and proved that his strength was not in taking, but in waiting. That is the touch she never forgets. Restraint is one of the most powerful forms of intimacy, and yet it is the one most often ignored. Most men believe that desire is proven through action, through rushing in, through touching quickly, through closing the distance before it fades. But the truth is, the most magnetic men understand the opposite, that holding back creates more anticipation than rushing forward ever could. Desire is not born from instant gratification, it is born from tension, and tension only exists when you show that you could move forward, but you choose not to, at least not yet. When you withhold touch, you create space for her imagination. That space is electric. She begins to notice the nearness of your presence, the way your hand almost brushed hers, the subtle pause before you leaned closer. That almost becomes louder than the act itself, and it is in that gap between what is possible and what is withheld that true chemistry grows. Restraint signals control, and control is deeply attractive, because it shows you are not driven by impulse, but by intention. Psychologically, restraint shifts the dynamic from pursuit to invitation. When you hold back, you allow her to lean in, to participate in the creation of the moment. She doesn't feel taken, she feels chosen, and that distinction is everything. A man who cannot control himself communicates desperation. A man who can hold his desire without letting it spill over communicates strength. That strength leaves an imprint far deeper than any hurried touch could. Philosophically, restraint reflects a higher form of respect. It acknowledges that intimacy is not about conquering territory, but about allowing mystery to unfold. By not rushing, you elevate the encounter beyond the physical and into the psychological, where anticipation is often more intoxicating than fulfillment. It becomes a dance between possibility and patience, between what is visible and what is still hidden. So before you touch her, practice the art of not touching her yet, because in the end, what she remembers is not just your desire, it is your discipline. The fact that you could, but didn't, that you waited, that you let the moment expand until it was undeniable, that is what transforms an ordinary interaction into something unforgettable